Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Worldbuilders Twitch stream. We are here celebrating Earth Day, and we have wonderful guests. We have straight from the Galapagos Islands there, our graphic designer Zoe,
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Zoe.
and we also have our special guests from our favorite organization in the world, Heifer International. Jason Sanford is a content creator. And our star guest today is the director of the Heifer in Ecuador, Rosa Rodriguez. Thank you for coming, both of you.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
a pleasure to stay here.
we are always happy when we can actually get to talk directly with you, although we think about Heifer all year round as we plan for our end of year stuff. But before we dive into talking about your stuff, we want to just we talk a lot of talk on our social media about how we use eco-friendly packaging and things like that all year round, not just on Earth Day. But since we're especially talking about it, I actually brought some samples here, just so you can see. That's one of our sealed air, and you can see there is 100% recycled paper, and it is recyclable with mixed paper. And well, it says naturally better, which that's kind of sus talking about that. But we use that for as much as possible in terms of our things. But the real star of our packing material is our packing peanuts. We have these are not only biodegradable, but supposedly, if I was an excellent executive director of Worldbuilders, I would show you how biodegradable they are by just eating it. But I'm just an okay executive director. So instead, I am going to do science. So if I take this and I put it in the bowl, and then I add a little bit of water to it, at first it's nicely floating, but I would not recommend you use this as a flotation device because as I mix it up, you will see it is simply disintegrating into the water. And that's how fast this stuff goes away because I think it's based on a corn product. It's not disintegrating into little microplastic things. It's actually turning into something that, again, if I was an excellent executive director, I would drink this to show you how safe it is. I'm an okay executive director. So that's how we're going to go there. But yes, Lab Walter in the chat says, have more fun sticking them together to build stuff. Glad you enjoy that. Sydney in our warehouse mentioned that in the winter, if your boots are wet, in the spring too, here in Stevens Point, if your boots are wet from the snow, they will stick to your feet as you're walking around the warehouse if they're spilled out. So sometimes perhaps it is a little bit of an annoyance, but feel free if you order from Worldbuilders and you get those packing peanuts to do that science experiment at home. Or use glue and Lab Walter. We'd love to see some pictures of what you're building with our little little things there. So that is our little presentation on eco-friendly materials. Now let's talk about the good stuff. Normally we'd have trivia, but in the trivia section, for my benefit, I appreciate this, Zoe, in our script, she showed me a map so that I could see where Ecuador is and where the Galapagos Islands are, because I am an ignorant Midwestern male, and they did not cover that part of my education, unfortunately. But please tell me, tell me about your experience in that, Zoe, and then we can talk to Rosa and Jason about the program that Heifer does there.
Sure. Well, I've traveled a good bit, and my first degree was in wildlife and fishery sciences. So I am forever traveling places to see beautiful wildlife, but also to see the culture and what people do in all these different places. And I will say that when I was in Ecuador, I found the people very connected to and in love with the country and the wildlife that was theirs, more than any other place I'd ever been. Every place I've been in other countries, it was about how do we get money out of you? as the tourist. But when I was in Ecuador, I did not feel that at all. I felt as though everybody wanted to see how they could show me the beauty of Ecuador. And we spent 3 weeks total, a little over 3 weeks total in Ecuador. I spent a week and a half doing birding in northern Ecuador. We spent a week in Quito, and then we spent a week in the Galapagos. So we did get to see a lot of different places. Obviously, Ecuador is huge, and there are many things that we didn't see. But I did notice that the people just generally seemed sweet and kind and very caring about their environment. And I wanted to know, Rosa, if that's true. Do you feel that? Does that help with the work that you do? Oh, wait, can anybody else hear Rosa?
Yes. Thank you, Sue, for that really kind words. Thank you. And I have to say that, yes, Ecuador is really a wonderful, wonderful country. And Quito and also Galapagos, they are really nice places also. And I think that Ecuador is a very diverse country, as you said. We have the volcanoes, we have the nevados, we have the Galapagos Islands, we have the coastal area. And maybe because of that, we love nature and we love our environment. We love, and because also we have very strong indigenous roots. They call the Pachamama. The Pachamama is the Mother Earth. So that is why we have respect, a lot of respect for our land, for our natural resources, for where we live. And and about people, I think that also because our very indigenous root, we have something that we call Minga. Minga is something where if you want to build your house, you ask your neighbor for a Minga, and everybody came to support you Saturday or Sunday to build your house and things like that. Or if you have to crop, to plant, they used to have a lot of mingas. The minga is a way to survive, to get something that otherwise you couldn't get that. So the minga is a nice word also.
Yeah, I wish we had a word in English. Minga. I would love more mingas in the United States.
Reminds me of the closest thing I can think of is the whole idea of barn raising, which happens a lot of times in.
I was going to say the Amish sort of do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Rosa, you're in charge of all of Ecuador, but the Galapagos Islands are special, right? I mean, they're kind of a special case.
Yeah, this is really a special case, and most right now that I just was visiting the work that Heifer Ecuador is doing in Galapagos Island. And as you know, Galapagos Islands, they are a UNESCO Natural World Heritage place. And as Zoe said, it is very well known because it's natural beauty, wildlife. But Galapagos Islands, they have a very strong problem, which is that they are dependent on importation of food from the mainland. 75% of its food came from a mainland. And I think you can imagine that any place that depends food from other place. And that is a big problem of this very, very nice place, which is Galapagos.
And one, can I just jump in real quick?
Please,
One of
please.
the things that many people probably don't know is that the Galapagos Islands is very far away from the mainland.
Exactly, exactly. They are like 600 miles from mainland at the Pacific Ocean, 600 miles. We have to fly like about 2 hours to get to Galapagos. And also, which is very important, that maybe most of the people, they think that Galapagos Islands are only wildlife, but 30,000 people live on the islands also, and they depend from mainland to get food. That is a very important issue. And also because Galapagos is a natural heritage, if an organization or an institution, for example, as Heifer, if I want to go to work there, I cannot go by myself. I have to be invited. So Heifer International was invited by the Agriculture Ministry they see us as an opportunity, and they requested us for collaboration because they know that Heifer Ecuador work with local farmers all around the world to build a sustainable food and farming business. So they requested Heifer to go there and to help them to create or to start to create a sustainable food system.
Yeah, and so like Rosa mentioned, the Ministry of Agriculture sent the invitation to Heifer Ecuador, but that's not the only government entity that we're working with, right, Rosa? We're also working with the National Park System and other.
Exactly. We are working with the national park, we are working with the municipality, and also we are working with the control agency of pests, because as a natural heritage, if you are going to grow anything, you have to do it taking care of the environment. But also at the same time, Galapagos suffers from some invasive pests. So we have there a control agency. So we are working, I think, with also with some schools, high schools, with a lot of entities in Galapagos right now.
Yeah, one of the questions I had was how does it differ, the work that you do in the Galapagos versus the work you do on mainland Ecuador? How different, how does the national park really stop some of the things that you would normally do?
Okay, first, I would like to say that Heifer's work in Galapagos is a part of the Future of Food project, which is changing food systems throughout the country. We are working in this big project in mainland in 5 provinces. And what are we doing, for example, in Galapagos? In Galapagos, we are starting to ensure that small-scale farmers have resources to feed their communities. And for example, what are we doing? We are providing greenhouses. We are providing also some cutters, some seeds. We are just like starting, because in mainland we have like almost 30 years of working doing this. But in Galapagos we are starting, and the answering your question is that, for example, it is very important to have ecological production.
Right.
Some farmers, they use some chemics, but the natural park and the control agency, they are right now controlling what kind of chemics they are using. So we are doing strongly in Galapagos is supporting an agroecological way to produce. So in this specific ecosystem, that is why, for example, we are using greenhouses, because Galapagos Islands also has a very interesting weather. At the morning, it is cold. It is very cold. And even you can get some drops of water. I don't know the name in English. It is like when you,
Ice?
yeah,
Like
yes,
a fog.
a little drops of water in the plants. When it is too cold, the plants, you have,
Okay.
yes, like
Frost, yeah.
frost, kind of, not frost, but kind of frost.
Like dew?
But during the day, you get warm, and even really, really warm. And then at the afternoon, it is not cold, but kind of fresh, So you have a very interesting weather because the nature, because the island. So we have to learn how to work with greenhouses. So we are building with them specific greenhouses adapted to this specific weather.
And is that how you're dealing with the water situation too? Because the Galapagos is very dry.
Yes, and also we are supporting farmers with some water irrigation techniques. It is drop by drop water or irrigation system. We are supporting that, and also we are using something that we call, in Spanish, we call mush, which means that we use all the, how do you say, Jason, las hojas de las plantas?
The leaves
We,
of the plant.
we cover with the leaves of the dry, with the dry leaves, we cover the soil.
Okay.
So we
like a mulch.
Mulch, exactly. We create an ecosystem inside this ecosystem. So we are learning in a very collaborative way, farmer with farmer, how to create an ecological way to produce food in Galapagos. That is the main challenge that Heifer Ecuador is supporting. But at the same time, we are not only supporting to improve production, we are also supporting to sell, to have access to markets, to this production. And maybe you think that this is easy, but this is not easy because the people in Galapagos Islands, they, for example, they used to have the big tomatoes, but the big tomatoes that they came from the mainland with a lot of chemics of the lettuce, things like that. They do not know the difference with a tomato with chemics or a tomato without a natural tomatoes. So we are also supporting people to understand that this is better. Maybe this is a little smaller, but it tastes better, things like that. So we are opening many, I think that different ways to market these products. So maybe you have Jason or any of you, you have some of the pictures. We have some pictures, for example, of one of the open air markets that we are supporting. And this market was very important. That is why I would like to show the picture if you have. Why is this market is important? It is because during the pandemic, the COVID, you know, this year we all have suffered of this pandemic. There was no food because Galapagos Islands were on quarantine. Everything was closed and they were not able to access to food. So farmers and fishermen, they were in the front line and they helped people to have access to food, offering lettuce, offering cucumbers, green beans, lettuce, carrots. Because we were very lucky because we started our project in October.
Okay.
In 2019, you know, we started with a short cycle products. In March, when the pandemic and the quarantine started, the farmers, they have a lot of products to offer to the people. So the last week that I was, I didn't realize that I knew that it was important, but I didn't realize how important was this support from farmers. When I was walking with my Heifer t-shirt and my here, you know, as a Heifer working, and the people came to me and said, "You are from Heifer, and we have to say thank you, because during the pandemic, during the quarantine, we could buy or we could access to food thanks to Heifer." And for me, you know, my skin, I get with emotion when I heard that. And also because the farmers, they also prepare some free food. I don't know, free food, gratis, to deliver to some families that they didn't have any money to buy food. So that is why I love this open air market. I am really enriched with this experience. It was really, really great. So yeah, right now we are opening we are not only having or supporting the open air market, we are also having a shop. We are going to open a permanent shop because the market fair is weekly, but now we want a permanent shop to offer to the population with this job.
Is your hope that you will be able, that the farmers will be able to support the islands and the tourists, or just the people who are living there?
Oh no, thank you for asking me that. That is another nice, very nice news, that when I was there also, I get in touch with the 2 touristic agencies, and right now I think that pandemic also helps everybody to change our mind. You know, I think that everybody right now, at least a little bit, we understand that food is very important, that the health is very important. I think that we're changing, that we are saying natural is better. And that happened to some touristic agencies. And so right now, some 2 touristic agencies, one is Metropolitan, they came to us and they said, okay, we want to start to buy they are already buying. They are already buying to our farmers. I call our farmers, the farmers that we are supporting. But they want to have a strong program. They need more. And we are going also to start to sell, and we are starting with tomatoes, with green beans, with carrots and zucchinis to sell them permanently when they arrive to Galapagos. So that is really great. That is really great because I think that the touristic activity has to change.
Yes.
You know, they have to value the local resources everywhere, all around the world. They have to contribute to the local people. And I think that they have tested us, they have understand how we are working, that we are able to deliver them. They have seen also the delivery home, the baskets that we are doing in Galapagos. We are also delivering some basket foods. So now we are this new challenge to deliver to the big, they are big, to touristic boats.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, because
So-
they are boats, you know, they just go. And sometimes they used to buy, for example, coffee from Haiti, and they buy whatever from other country. And that is why I say the boats, these big touristic agencies, they need to change, and they are starting to change. That is very important.
Yeah, because we did not go on a boat cruise. We went and stayed on one of the islands, and but you could see that people who were on a boat never really saw Ecuador other than, they didn't really see the Galapagos other than what the wildlife was. And so, you know, it was nice to actually be on the island and be able to walk away from the tourist areas and get more into seeing some of what the people who lived there, you know, what their life was really like. I had another question about wildlife. So, you know, my background is wildlife, so I'm going to be asking a lot of that kind of stuff. But do you have, so it looked like in the pictures that not all of your crops were in greenhouses. Do you have trouble with some of the wildlife? So are the giant tortoises near your, near where the crops are growing, and what, you know?
Yeah, that is also, thank you so for this big and great question, because we are doing a really great work also on that, because we cannot use greenhouses all around Galapagos, because also it is also unsustainable. So we are doing that only for some specific crops, but on Galapagos also we are supporting farmers by in a transitioning to natural methods of pest control, because you have some ways you can I am not saying that we have to do that, but for example, if you were in mainland, which is not a natural heritage, they can use some chemics, and for example, glyphosate, which is one of the chemics that they are prohibited all around the world. You should use, please.
Sorry to interrupt. Just for context, it's the main chemical in Roundup. If you're familiar with Roundup, that's what we're talking about.
Exactly. So in Galapagos, we have some invasive pests like rats, ants, and some insects. And so we are doing a very interested research, farmers to farmers, and the university and the natural park. we are doing a research to find natural ways. And for example, we are creating natural traps, for example, for rats. So we do not have to put poison.
Yeah.
Poison.
Exactly.
So what do those traps look like, Rosa?
Oh, it is like a tube like this, where we put inside some specific natural. It is like a tube. When the farmers that they put some food inside these tubes, and the rat came and the traps closed. But it is natural. It is natural. So we have some different kind of traps into the farm. And also, for example, for some insects, we are using what we call a color traps. A color traps is like a paper, a big paper like this, where insects came and just get stuck.
Stuck to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they are simple, but the modern agriculture, they do not think in these simple ways to combat. They are just thinking on money, and they are just thinking in chemics and faster, quickly. And
Rosa, correct me if I'm wrong, but so these are invasive species mostly, right?
Exactly.
So these are species coming over on the boat that is also importing all of the food, or maybe the tourist boats. And so they're invasive species that are potentially a danger to the wildlife in Galapagos, but then also the environmental component is that people are using a lot of chemicals, which is obviously not good for the land that everyone's trying to protect.
Exactly.
Does the question came up in chat, speaking of the invasive species, does Galapagos have any native plants that are used for the crops or native exports?
Yeah, I am not sure if they have native, because people lived in Galapagos many years ago. Even many years ago they used to have cane, for example. They say cane is native, but really they are not native, because it was introduced but it has, for example, 100 years ago. So it is not native, but it is already adapted to the ecosystem. So what we are using and trying to produce is at least most of the plants that they were already introduced by people, and using, for example, combination of corn with beans, because using both together, they act as in a symbiosis, also to control some specific insects, for example, or we are using also yellow plants, because the yellow as a boundary, as a frontier, farmer frontier, you can use that, for example, to repel some specific insects. So
insects are very attracted to the color yellow.
Exactly. So we are looking these ways, for example, and we are doing this specific also research to turn to chemicals like glyphosate to natural ways to control and to plant and to have agriculture respecting the natural park indications. And we have to learn, farmers, Heifer, we cannot say you do not have to use chemics. It is a way that everybody has to see that these practices are really answer for them, because
And
they are not,
usually
please.
and usually cheaper too. You know,
Exactly.
it's much cheaper to put some yellow plants around the outside as opposed to spraying chemicals.
Absolutely. Just let's remember that for agriculture, many years ago, you do not used to buy seeds. You do not have to buy chemics. You just use your seeds. The people used to select the better seeds to
Right.
to plant. So that is why we are trying to do. We are doing agroecology, which is that we need to learn how to do agriculture, taking in account the specific ecosystem. And that is why what Heifer Ecuador is being doing in Ecuador. Heifer Ecuador is very well known because we are supporting many years to a transition from a chemical agriculture to agroecological. Because, for example, it is not the same, the Andes. So I think that you were in Quito, which is a very high altitude, for example, 2,000, almost 3,000 meters. And if you go to Galapagos or if you go to the coastal area, agriculture, we need to learn how to do how do you say, taking in account the specific ecosystem in harmony with the ecosystem. That is very important. That is agriculture. That is why food is different.
Right. Yes. Why exactly? So my understanding is that you guys are only working on one of the islands, correct?
Yes.
And
yes.
why was that island chosen? And do you plan to spread out to some of the other islands?
Yeah. In Galapagos, you can find other institutions as Heifer, but they are focused mostly in conservation because Galapagos received a lot of support to preserve the natural heritage. But what is very important is that Heifer, we are trying to do both. We have to support small farmers that live there for years, to live in a collaborative way, producing natural and taking care of the natural environment. And in Santa Cruz, you have a lot of organizations that they are more environmental organization. But in San Cristobal, you do not have other institutions. And they asked, okay, so the other islands have more collaboration. We need someone. And also because in San Cristobal, it is an island that also has sweet water, because the other island, they have water, but it is like I don't know exactly the name, but it is like a salty water. We say agua salinizada.
Yeah, there's potable water on San Cristobal, right? You can.
It is like agua dulce.
Yeah, I think that's.
Agua dulce is the water from the river.
Yeah.
The other ones, they have like a salty water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is because you are an island.
So
that is quite bad. Right now, we are also talking to, we are going to start with our business school, because also we have business school, because farming is also business. They have to learn how to produce, but also how to sell, how to manage their business, how to sell to the touristic activities. So we have a business school. And also we are going to do this in Floriana. We are going to start the next semester in Floriana also to work. And also we are planning to start in Santa Cruz with sharing the results, the good results of our research in Santa Cruz, in Cristobal. We are going to share in Santa Cruz also.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And is, sorry, go ahead, Greg.
Okay. I would like to hear more about the Mingas. I would like to know if there's like, do you have a favorite story about the Mingas, either one you saw or that you heard about? Because they just sound wonderful.
Yeah, La Minga is like, for example, if an indigenous community, and also in Galapagos, we used to do Mingas. For example, in Galapagos, let me say one in Galapagos and then another one in the highland, in the mainland, in Ecuador, in the continent. In Galapagos, to build a greenhouse, it is heavy. And for example, in some cases, you don't have to pay someone to support you and it takes like 1 week to build the greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, and I call Gray, or I call Sue, and I call Jason, and I say, hey, I am having this. Please, let's do a Minga. So you know that if I call you for a Minga, you have to come. I am in charge of you, so I have food for you. I will take care, but you help me to do my greenhouse. And when you need me for another activity, you call me for a Minga because you supported me in a Minga. And for example, at the Central Andes in Ecuador, which is really nice, I love that. A lot of the caminos, the highways, they open by a Minga. For example, they say, we need a Minga, we need a highway, we need a highway. We do not have a highway. We are asking the government for a highway, but we do not have. So let's do a Minga. Let's do a Minga. Entonces, everybody came. Okay, let's do all the community, everybody. And say, okay, how we are going to do the pathway? We need stones, we need plants, we need whatever you need. And I say, the young people, they have to bring stones. You have to bring this, you have to bring the trees, you have to bring this. And then everybody came very, very early in the morning. And everybody's working. And for example, in 1 month, you have the highway with a Minga.
Wow.
And for example, there is another way of a Minga, which is really nice. The last April, when the pandemic started, because it is like a, how do you say, like a cold, it is a strong cold. And the indigenous people, they have some specific herbals, products that support to go through the pandemic. And we had a city, Guayaquil, what was really, really bad during the pandemic. And so they decided to do a Minga. What for? They knew that eucalyptus and another plants are good. So they talk to each other and say, we need to do a Minga. We need to do a Minga to bring the plants and eucalyptus to Guayaquil. Huh. And the next week, you could see a lot of people taking the plants, the eucalyptus, and putting into the cars. I have so nice pictures of that. And sending eucalyptus by Minga to Guayaquil. By Minga means that everybody in the community is committed in something for everybody. That is a Minga. And we as Heifer also work using the Minga a lot. The Minga is very important.
You're using it, from what I read, in the Galapagos with weed control. Is that correct?
With exactly with controls to stand up our greenhouses, and we use it in Galapagos also. For example, when we are going to go down to the open air market, not everybody can take the products, and they say, okay, let's do a Minga, and we have 2 cars and to help to put the products in the car. So that is like a common practice.
Next time you need a Minga, can you call me? I'll come and help you.
That will be perfect. That will be perfect. And I think that is very important. And also I think it is very in contact with the Heifer values, because we also talk with with the farmers when we start the projects, and this solidarity, this way to work together, that is the way to change things. It's not one only by itself, is in Minga, that the way that I think we could change the world.
And I have to say that, like, this explains a lot about why the people in Ecuador seemed so friendly and cooperative and helpful. I was there with at the time, I think she was 85-year-old mother. And I did not do a lot of concessions for my mother in terms of being 85. She loves to travel. She loves to go places. And we would go in a cab, and I would get out of the cab and walk around. And by the time I got to the other door, there would already be somebody opening the door and helping her out. Everywhere we went, somebody was helping my mother before I even had the opportunity to. And I love this story of the Mingas, because it makes me understand where that baseline of just generosity comes from.
Yeah, we have a very deep indigenous root, but I think that we need to always remember as one to another this specific way to understand life. That is very important. And as I say, Heifer also support us and support farmers, remembering this. And also, for example, we said we have always today, that is the Earth Day, to be very grateful with the Pachamama, to be very grateful with the earth, because also the earth is in Minga with us. The earth give us a lot of issues, and we have to return to the earth the generosity also. That is very important.
That is the best way to put it, is that, return to the earth the generosity it's given us. So
yeah.
And I love the way that it ties into, the Worldbuilders, goes right along with those values of Heifer. We don't get our money from 1 or 2 big foundations or things like that. We have thousands of geeks coming together around the world to help you out. And it's so wonderful to hear about some of the programs that our donors have supported. I really appreciate you coming to share that with us, Rosa.
Yeah.
Do we have any final questions from the chat before we go? We're running out of our allotted time. We want to respect everyone's time here, but definitely want to make sure. Oh, we did have one question I didn't get to, which is land ownership. What is land ownership like in the Galapagos? Is that an issue because of all the parks and stuff?
What is land ownership, Jason? In Spanish?
Yeah, hay dueños de la tierra en Galapagos para...
Oh, yeah, land ownership, sorry. Yeah, of course, because at the Galapagos Island, you have one part which is from to Ecuador, which is the reserva, we call the reserva. Nobody can go in That is what you have to take care, but also you have 30,000 people that lives there, and they own their land, but also there are a lot of people that they would like to, that they just arrived to Galapagos, because there was one moment where the state said, the Ecuadorian state say, okay, you have to come to Galapagos, and they opened the door, which I am not sure if that was good. But well, they opened the doors. So now you have the people, they do not own their land, but I think that the government right now is trying to look a way to put in rule that in order that situation. But the people who lives there, the Galapagos people, they are the owner of where they live. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I read that like 97% of the Galapagos is part of the park, and the other 3% must be that little bit of ownership of people.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Well, go ahead, Zoe.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you want to know more about the Galapagos, I have 2 books that this one is called The Beak of the Finch, and this one's a tough read, I will say, but it does have some interesting things. And the beginning part, which is all I ever got through, they talk about going to some of the islands that people are not allowed on to do some studying. So that was kind of interesting. But this one, it's called My Father's Island. And this one is written by a woman whose father was in the Galapagos before the Galapagos became very famous. And so this one talks from a perspective of when the Galapagos was just like an island that people went to. Have you ever seen this book, Rosa?
Yeah, that one, My Father's Island, from Johanna Angel Meyer. Yes, that one. That's a really nice one. That's a really great one. Yeah.
I loved it.
Yes.
And
yes.
I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I think that maybe Heifer should write just 2 pages about talking about these nice stories that we are doing there, that people is doing there, these nice stories, what they are doing. Pandemic stories also.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing this, Jason and Rosa and Zoe. Thank you for reaching beyond the graphic designer role. Those are fantastic questions. And everyone, we are celebrating Earth Day. Please do feel free to share with us on socials how you're celebrating Earth Day and what kind of things you'd like to see. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you from Worldbuilders, and we will sign off. It's kind of weird. We don't usually do special things like this, so we can't do our usual thing, but I don't know, maybe we can have a special word this time. We could have the Galapagos. Yep, that's the word then, Galapagos.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.